And how would you describe your relationship with China? Would you say it's the biggest security challenge for Australia at this point?
China is a very consequential relationship for all of us, and India understands that. And China is consequential in the world and in the region. The relationship we want with China is one where we can cooperate, where we can engage economically, but we continue to protect and assert our national interests. So I describe it to Australians as cooperate where we can, disagree where we must, and engage in the national interest, and that's the approach we take.
But do you see it as a strategic threat?
We see China, what I say is China will continue to assert its interests. And it's doing what great powers do, which is to assert its interests. The challenge for Australia is, and I suspect for some other countries, is that some of those interests don't align with our own. And so the question for diplomats is how do you manage that? How do you deal with that? And we deal with that in part through our other relationships. So how we envisage the Indo-Pacific is a region in balance, strategic balance, where various countries make a contribution to security that enables that balance, and India is central to that.
Yes, and it's also important to address the question of how these countries will respond if that balance is threatened. So if China were to make moves on Taiwan, would Australia intervene militarily?
I don't think any foreign minister is going to respond to hypotheticals. What I would say is Australia's position, and I think it is India's position, is that we don't want to see any unilateral change to the status quo.
Right. A new poll shows that Australians are now more concerned about US interference than China. Do you share that concern?
I don't know which poll you're referring to, but we believe in the resilience of our democracy and our democratic institutions. The US remains our principal strategic partner and ally. We will continue to engage with them. We will continue to engage with other partners.
So you think that those concerns are unfounded?
Well, I don't know what the poll is. Our democracy matters to us, and we'll always make sure it's resilient.
A new study places Australia among the top 10 destinations for Chinese investment. So when you say that we have to protect our interests, how do you do that when dependence is so deep?
There's a number of aspects to that question. The first is economic diversification is absolutely part of our resilience, and we've made clear to the Australian business community that we want to continue to see more diversification. India is a very important part of that, so is Southeast Asia, and we've done a lot of work to try and increase our investment and trade ties in Southeast Asia since we came to government. That's going to be a very fast-growing economy between now and 2030 and 2040. So diversification matters. Investment, we welcome investment that's consistent with our national interests. We obviously have made decisions about areas where, we welcome foreign investment, and areas where we do want to have a look at whether it's in our national interest. And I think we have a transparent framework which enables investors to see that foreign investment has been important for our country.
Are you worried that the South China Sea will be the next big global flashpoint?
I think we all worry about the potential for escalation in our region. And I've made the point that escalation can be because people actually escalate. Escalation can also be because people make inaccurate judgments about the meaning, the strategic intent behind the other's behaviour. So one of the things we have really put a lot of effort into is what ASEAN calls conflict prevention, and that is how do you engage in de-escalation and military-to-military communication to try and remove basically a mistake. Now, obviously there are differences of the different territorial claims and so forth. We think we need conflict prevention, and Australia has a long-standing view about international law. So UNCLOS, the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, is a norm that enables stability.